I am extremely happy to receive a letter from Comrade Mansoor Moin, Secretary for International Affairs of the Garment Workers Trade Union Center of Bangladesh. The Garment Workers Trade Union Center is going to organize its 8th National Conference at Bangladesh on the 18th of November 2022. It must have been my pleasure to be present in your conference and understand the problems of the garment workers of Bangladesh, so that at the appropriate international forums those issues can be raised. But myself being the General Secretary of All India Defence Employees Federation also, our 4 days conference is also there at Kanpur in India. That is also from the 15th of November to 18th of November 2022. Therefore, as requested by Comrade Mansoor Moin, I thought I should convey my greetings and I should convey my message to the garment workers of Bangladesh through this video. At the outset, all of you will be happy to know that I also belongs to the community of garment worker. I started my career as a garment factory supervisor in the Coromandel Garments Limited, owned by one of the major industrial setup of our country, the Tata Groups. I was working as a supervisor there. More than 3,000 women employees were working in that garment industry. And I have seen the difficulties, the problems, the working conditions, the low wages, the hard work, whatever they are doing. That has given me an opportunity to understand how our garment workers, especially the women workforce, are suffering in the garment industry. Subsequently, of course, I resigned from that company and I joined another garment industry owned by the Government of India, which manufactures all types of troop comfort items, protective clothing, strategic uniforms to the armed forces of our country, India. That is the Ordnance Clothing Factory, Avadi at Chennai. There also, I worked for almost 37 years as a tailor, and of course, I was in the forefront in leading the trade union of the workers of that factory. Basically, there is a difference between a private industry and a government industry. In a government industry, since we are well organized and the rules and regulations, the benefits applicable to central government employees, Government of India employees, were equally applicable to them also. But in the private industry, the situation is totally different. Especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. The garment workers are the worst sufferers. The so-called branded companies who used to place orders on this garment industry, they have gone to the extent of withdrawing those orders. And majority of the garment industry are in the medium and small scale industry. Once the order is withdrawn, automatically the factory comes to a close. And when the factory comes to a close, the workers who are depending on that factory, they lost the job because there is no employment guarantee, there is no social security, and therefore once the company is no more in existence, then the workers automatically lost their jobs. So this is the situation, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. All over the world, the garment industry has faced, especially Asia, the garment manufacturer or the garment factory of the world. Asia is generally called as the garment manufacturer of the world. In majority of the Asian countries, where it is India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, all these countries are dominated by garment industries, and all branded companies are having an eye on these countries because the production cost is low due to cheap labor cost. It is a total exploitation of the garment workers what we are seeing. Even in India, there are both central government and state government minimum wages act and minimum wages regulations. But unfortunately, these minimum wages are also not paid to the garment industry workers. That is a fact. And there is always a gender discrimination between male workers and female workers. The female workers are always paid less than the male workers. Even though there are many acts like a Maternity Benefit Act, these maternity benefit acts are not, even though the act says it is applicable to all the industry and workers, but the garment industry workers are not given that benefit, because once you are in your family way, the company, the employer will say that your services are no more required. You go, deliver your child, and then come back. If the work is there, we will give you work. So this is the situation under which our brothers and sisters in the garment industry are working. And accidents are also no less. Because myself being a tailor, and I myself had the experience of working both in a private garment industry and a government garment industry. Generally, the people think of the garment industry there is no much accidents. But if you see the garment industry also, the accidents of minor and major nature are being observed. And once that accident takes place, there is no compensation, there is no injury leave granted by the employer, and the number of days the employee, the worker is out of job, he has to live without a wages, without the salary. And in many of the garment industries, these workers are not organized also. They don't have their trade unions, and the employers threaten the worker that if you form union or if you join the union, then you will be out. You will be out of the job. That type of a fear, a hysteria is created amongst the workers. But despite that, in many of the garment industry in India and in Bangladesh and in other places, they have started organizing trade unions. They are fighting for their rights. They are fighting for their benefits. They are fighting for a better working atmosphere. They are fighting against exploitation. Our women workforce, our sisters are fighting against sexual exploitation. So all these activities have now started coming up. That is encouraging for trade unions, that the trade union activities have really started in this garment industry also. Now, the Bangladesh, the branded companies of the world are coming towards Bangladesh when compared to India, is that they know that compared to India, they will get at a lower cost, the garments manufactured in Bangladesh because of the low wages being paid to the workers of Bangladesh. So therefore, the Garment Workers Trade Union Center has rightly taken up the agenda for fixing the minimum wage for the garment industry worker. Because different types of workers are there in the garment industry. Different types of activities are there in the garment industry. Unskilled activity is there, semi-skilled activity is there, skilled activity is there, highly skilled activity is there. So depending upon the profile, depending upon the categorization, a minimum wage for the garment industry worker has to be fixed. In India, recently, all the major central trade unions have jointly taken a decision that in any industry in India, for an unskilled worker, what should be the minimum wage? So they have come to the conclusion that rupees 21,000 should be the minimum wage of any worker in any industry. So that demand they have now submitted before the government of India. Generally, while fixing the minimum wage, the Dr. Ackroyd's formula is being followed. That is, a family consisting of 3 units. 3 units means husband, wife and 2 children. What are all the minimum requirements? And this formula in India was decided sometime in 1954 in the 15th Indian Labour Conference. Now, where is 1954 and where is 2022? What was considered to be luxurious some 20 years before, 30 years before, 10 years before have become the basic essential requirement of life. So therefore, the minimum wage fixation formula itself has to undergo a change. Today's need-based, for a honorable living, for a honorable working standard, for a decent working standard, for maintaining a decent family life, what should be the minimum wage required in any industry is an issue to be debated now by all the trade unions. Therefore, the Garment Workers Trade Union Center of Bangladesh has rightly selected this topic, and you are going to discuss these issues in your conference. And I am confident that your conference will be able to come to some sort of an understanding by which a minimum wage has to be fixed for each and every category of workers in the garment industry. And for that purpose, the branded companies cannot be allowed to escape just like that. Some sort of a cess, some sort of a percentage has to be fixed on these branded companies to take care of the requirement and the welfare, the social security, the old age security, the medical requirements of the garment workers. These garment workers work day and night, and because they work day and night and produce garments and put their label, the branded company's label, they sell in the international market and minting huge profit out of it. And we have got every right, every justification to demand that certain percentage of the profit you are earning because of the hard labor given by us, we should get it back. We should get it back. And hence, you have to fight for that. Recently, I was in Athens in Greece. The Secretariat meeting of the World Federation of Trade Unions took place at WFTU headquarters on the 8th and 9th of this month. Today morning only I have returned back from Athens. On the 9th, more than 2 lakh workers, young workers, men and women, they assembled before the Greece parliament, marching from 4 different corners of the Athens city. And there also the main demand is to fix a need-based minimum wage. In every industry there should be a need-based minimum wage, because the governments are not having any control on the price rise. The government is not having any control on the rentals of the houses. The government is not having any control on the children education, on the primary health. All the sectors are being privatized. And when everything has gone into the private, then the looting starts taking place. How, without a need-based minimum wage, without the actual required wage, these type of private corporates you will be able to match? And therefore, the World Federation of Trade Unions are also, in our meeting also, we have discussed all these issues. The imperialist attack, the attack of the corporates, the attack of the capitalists on the working class, and exploitation, privatization of pension, privatization of all activities. Government doesn't want to take any responsibility. So in this situation, the Greece workers came to the street, and we, the WFTU Secretariat members, were leading that strike, their agitation from in the forefront. And hence encouraging news are coming from all over the world, every sector of the workers. As I mentioned to you, I belong to the defense sector. The defense sector in India is privatized. The defense production is being handed over to private sector, the most strategical sector of the industry. And we are fighting against that. The government employees are fighting against the no guarantee new pension scheme. They are fighting for a guaranteed defined pension scheme. The bank employees are fighting against privatization. Railway workers are fighting against privatization. Insurance workers are on the street. Port and dock workers, airport workers, coal and natural minerals workers, petroleum workers, electricity workers, road transport workers, shipping workers, all are on the street. So therefore, my dear comrades of the garment industry of Bangladesh, you are not alone in this struggle. You are a part of the international working class movement. You are a part of the World Federation of Trade Unions. So therefore, in your struggle, the entire international working community is with you. From India, I can assure on behalf of the All India Trade Union Congress, AITUC, the mother trade union of our country, and also on behalf of the World Federation of Trade Unions, our support, our solidarity to the workers, the garment industry workers of Bangladesh, and we will always stand with you in your struggle for getting justice, for getting decent wages, for getting a decent work life, and for getting social security. Red salute to all of you, and I wish your conference all success, and I am confident you will resolve to come out with your own strategies and your own action programs in the coming days. Hoping to meet you in the near future. Thank you, comrades.